2, 1. And folks, I believe that we are live. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome back to episode number 10 of the DLT Sandwich Alternative Money Mondays. Appreciate everybody being here. My name is Jeremy Fletcher, CEO and co-founder of a little software company called Ledgerama, and we built the HBAR wallet, Wallawallet. I'm also joined today by Caitlin Lance from Creative Coast. At the Creative Coast, we create, code, and collide here in the Savannah, Georgia area, the lowland coastal area of Georgia. Creative Coast has been helping out Ledgerama really since our inception, so we appreciate Caitlin being here. Of course, I'm joined by, everybody knows Brandon the HBAR Bull. I'm happy to be joined by him again this week, a busy man indeed, coming back from Consensus down there in Austin, Texas. And my main man in Kenya, Tim Mungai, as usual. Hello, Tim. Hope you're having a great day. And we're also, looks like we're joined by Lu Fang, one of our local Creative Coast members as well. So hopefully we'll be joined by Silton Collymore here in a little bit, but I know he's a busy fellow, so hopefully he'll be able to join us. If he's not able to join us this week, I'm sure he'll be back here next week or one of the following weeks. So, all right, so kind of an interesting week in the market. So we'll kind of jump into our typical Market Mondays. Brandon, do you want to take it away and talk a little bit about what happened in the markets over the past 7 days?
Sure. Well, it's been pretty rocky lately. We had a really hot inflation print come out, not this past Friday, but the Friday before. And this past Wednesday, we had the Federal Reserve come out, and a lot of people were expecting a 0.5% interest rate rise, but they went with a 0.75, so 0.75%. Now that's the largest increase in interest rates in 30 years. Wow. So they're being pretty aggressive right now, and that's understandable considering that inflation print and how interest rates bring, or what the Fed's toolbox, how they can bring inflation under control is a few ways. Number one is through raising interest rates. It's pretty much the benchmark interest rate that they raised. It's the Fed funds rate. That's what banks can lend to each other at. And that pushes up pretty much all interest rates. And there's a few mechanisms that causes that to possibly get inflation under control. Number one, when you start to increase that interest rate, people are more incentivized to put their money in the banks, right? Because those interest rates are going up as well. And that slows down money velocity, and that can have an impact on inflation. The next thing is, as those interest rates go up, people are less likely to take out a loan. And most people don't understand that that's actually how most of our money is created. When a bank makes a loan, we'll say a mortgage loan, the money that they lend you is actually coming into existence when you take out that loan. And when it's paid back, it actually kind of gets incinerated. That's how it's destroyed. And the bank's profit, of course, is the interest on top of that. But if you raise up those interest rates, people are less likely to take out loans. And so that money creation mechanism is slowed. And then the other thing that the Fed can do to get inflation under control, for a long time, especially during the pandemic, they were doing something called quantitative easing. Now, the Federal Reserve can, again, just like the other banks, create money out of thin air, but they have an unlimited amount that they can actually create, the way the central bank works. And they go out and they create or they buy up either government bonds or mortgage bonds, again, and when they give the money to whoever owned them before, that money springs into existence. And that's been kind of the world we've lived in for actually a really long time. We haven't done too much quantitative tightening, which is the reverse of that, where they sell those bonds, those mortgage bonds and those government bonds into the market, take the money out, and they actually incinerate it. That's, we hear about the money printer all the time. That's the monetary incinerator. That's the reverse of that process. All of these, and that just started on June 1st, that quantitative tightening. So all of these things are coming to bear all at once. Now, they can pull those levers, but they can't control some other things that are impacting inflation. So supply chain issues, issues around supply in general. So like all the oil out of Russia doesn't have a home. So that pushes up oil prices. So they can't really control that, but they can control or help control aggregate demand. But either way, so those are the mechanisms. So all risk assets, stocks and crypto has been having a hard time. And we've seen some pretty substantial pullbacks as far as, the big mega caps in the crypto space. Bitcoin is down 23% on the week. Ethereum is down 22%. A lot of the smaller caps or mid caps, I guess, like HBAR, took the initial hit last weekend, right after that inflation print came out. So they're faring a little bit better this week. So I think, let me find HBAR. HBAR's actually up 1% on the week. So it took most of its hit last week. We're sitting at about 7 cents on HBAR, and we're up 8% on the day. So we had a little bounce overnight, which is certainly good to see. But we'll have to really see how things look once we get into the broader trading days tomorrow. So today is a holiday, Juneteenth, so the markets aren't open. So crypto really doesn't have a leader right now, in the rest of the broader markets. So we'll have to see how things turn out tomorrow. But that's pretty much the breakdown. We're having a hard time, but HBAR actually, let's see. So when Bitcoin first started to take off, when it crossed that $20,000 point, which is right around where we are right now, HBAR was actually at 3 or 3.5 cents. So us sitting at 7 cents as it's coming back down to 20,000 isn't all that bad.
Right. And it'll be interesting to see whether the Fed can, it'll be interesting to see as the economy reacts to the rise in the interest rates. In the past, we've seen as they get closer and closer to this, I think it's 2.5%. As they get close to that rate, it's like suddenly the wheels start to kind of fall off the bus a little bit. In the past, that has been the case. And with us going into recession, of course, the threat of recession looming large, it'll be very interesting to see how their policies react to the economy going forward. Any thoughts on what may or may not happen as we go forward into the second half of the year?
Yeah, well, that would be the expectation that really they're looking at inflation. As soon as that starts to come under control, they'll probably start to taper down on their path with interest rate hikes. But like you said, it's likely to break something when they're raising things this fast. They haven't had to fight inflation like this since the late 1970s, early 1980s. And they don't want to be the Fed that's known for, after 40 years, losing control of inflation. So they're actually willing, I think, to break some things to get us under control. But hey, this space is not going to stop. Crypto is not going to stop. There's so much building going on in this space. There's so many exciting things to look forward to, whether it's gaming, whether it's in the banking industry, whether it's NFTs, or tokenization of securities. It's just across the board. It's so much more efficient than what we have with the legacy systems that it's just not going to stop. It's just a tank that's going to keep moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. And as somebody that's in the cryptocurrency space, and our company's building, I can tell you, right now we are busier now in the middle of this bear market than we ever have been before. Right. So just for listeners out there, it may seem, when you see the prices and you see the market action, it may seem like kind of doom and gloom in the crypto markets, but like I say, we're busier than we've ever been. So, and this is something that, we're kind of familiar with in the space, that when the bull market and the FOMO and all the frothy stuff kind of takes the back seat, then these are the times where the real companies and the real technology starts to come to the forefront, and people kind of double down and, really put their nose to the grindstone. And, and as technologists, we can kind of, we don't have to pay so much attention to the hype that's going on, right? So there's so much noise and activity in a bull market, especially these, the crypto markets can just get really crazy when it gets hot. So in these kind of quiet times, this is where we're all building. So of course, big news for over the past week was Consensus 2022. Saw you had a lot of activity going down there in Consensus 2022. Looks like the foundation has got a new member. Galaxy's making some big waves, and of course, there's a lot of discussion around DeFi and the momentum gaining for DeFi in the Hedera space. So, can you give us kind of the quick recap of Consensus 22? How was it down there? It was Austin this year, correct?
It was, and it was about 105 degrees every day. I'd be walking down there at 8 or 9 in the morning, and it would already be in the 90s. So it was a bit warm, but sure. My gosh, how much fun! And I mean, there were parties. Galaxy had an after party, probably the hottest ticket that there was down there. And they put on a great party. We had a few side events where we'd eat and we'd drink and just have a really good time. But I'll be honest with you, Jeremy, the most fun that I had was standing at the booth and seeing the recognition as I went through my pitch on Hedera, seeing the recognition that, hey, this thing is a little bit different. This is something that's special compared to some of the other things that we're hearing while we're down here. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what were some of the best conversations you had over the course of the past, when did Consensus start? It was what, a week-long event, a couple days? How long was Consensus?
Yeah, I got down there on Thursday. We were mainly just setting up on Thursday. So Friday and Saturday was the main part of the show, and we were just mainly breaking down on Sunday. But as far as interesting conversations, of course, there were plenty of people coming to talk about support from the HBAR Foundation.
Right.
But what was kind of interesting, and I was just having a conversation with a pretty big player in the crypto space, following up on some of the conversations we had down at Consensus. And it was people that wanted to put capital into our ecosystem, not necessarily asking the HBAR Foundation for financial support. And don't get me wrong, there was plenty of that, but I would say a good 25% of the conversations that I had around funding were, venture capitalists, incubators, things like that, launch pads that wanted to put capital to work in our ecosystem. So that was exciting to see. And then I'd say about another 25% that were talking about funding or talking about support from the HBAR Foundation. They weren't talking about needing capital. They had already done their capital raise earlier this year, and they were looking for marketing support or business development support or legal support, all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of unexpected for me. I thought, there'd be a lot more people with their hands out rather than the opposite direction.
Yeah, and I noticed that you mentioned something about a representative from the White House down there.
Yeah, that was actually a conversation that I had as well. I talked to all kinds of big players. So we had two representatives from the Big Four that I talked to directly, PCW and Deloitte's. I talked to the CTO of the network side of Discover Card. I talked to HSBC, of course, big players in the crypto ecosystem. But there was one young lady that I was talking to that asking all kinds of deep questions on regulation, on the SEC, on the environmental impacts of crypto in general, and how Hedera differs. And I was happy to, bring up independent studies from University College London and the University of Singapore, saying that Hedera is the most efficient network in the space. You don't have to believe Hedera, you don't have to believe me, but you can believe these independent studies. And we had a conversation for, I'd say, probably about 10 minutes until I finally looked down at her name tag and it said, White House representative or something along those lines. And at that point, I was like, I probably should bring some backup in. and luckily, the Hedera booth was mainly manned by Swirlds Labs personnel, but the Hedera booth was right around the other side, so I took her around, and luckily, Mance Harmon was there. So
there you go.
They had a conversation as well, and I think they left it off with her getting in touch with his general counsel.
Okay, awesome. So with Swirlds Lab being right there around the corner, I have to ask: was there any discussion about what Swirlds Labs is up to? Since the kind of the big change up where Swirlds Lab, essentially a lot of the folks from Hedera, for those that aren't aware, a lot of the folks that so Hedera and Swirlds, of course, have a very long-standing and important relationship. Swirlds being one of the governing council members and one with a continual, basically with a perpetual vote and a perpetual seat on the governing council. But then there was kind of a changing of the guard recently, where Swirlds Lab basically has kind of moved into a support role, not only of being a governing council member, but also being, what I'm gathering is essentially kind of a technical support, kind of a creative and productive engine for the Hedera space. So any discussion coming out of Swirlds Labs as to what they're working on and what they're looking at these days?
Well, I mean, we've already seen a couple products that they've had come out. We had Hashscan, which is their Explorer. We had the JSON RPC Relay. I think they're really involved with, the just general development of the Hedera network, with the leadership of the Hedera Governing Council. I didn't hear any nuggets beyond that, so mostly what's in the public sphere is what we know. But
Okay.
I mean, they're just a dedicated crew that's working forward. They got all kinds of leads down there at Consensus, and I know we have a big presence when it comes to Hedera at NFT NYC. So they're all up there this week. I'm not going to be able to attend that one, but I'm sure they're going to put in a good representation, just like they did down at Consensus.
Great. Awesome. So in other HBAR news, looks like there's some more. There's still some discussion about TRM Labs out there. So TRM Labs is the company that has this chain abuse platform. So what they're working on over there is essentially a platform where retail users, basically anybody in the crypto space, can go to chainabuse.com, and if they're aware of scams within the crypto space, rug pulls. Basically, rug pulls is kind of where people pile in a bunch of money, and then suddenly the directors or the leaders of the platform just kind of disappear, or suddenly there's a mysterious hack and the money all disappears. So for things like that, people can go to this chainabuse.com to support them. So basically what TRM Labs is doing, they're a blockchain fraud prevention firm that's working with law enforcement and the private sector. And of course, there's been a big movement in decentralized finance over the past 12 months. And of course, with a big increase in something like really, anytime something like this pops off, combination of technology and finance, there's always scammers and there's always sharks looking out there to take advantage of a situation. So of course, there's been an increase in scams along with the increase in DeFi and the attention that it's been getting. So Chain Abuse is a multi-chain reporting service. So not just HBAR or Hedera specific, it is a multi-chain reporting platform. And users can go to chainabuse.com to learn more about it. And then, of course, you can upvote or downvote scams that are being reported there. And then also huge news, the imminent release of staking. Looks like the first phase of staking on the Hedera network is set to come out in the very near future. It looks like it's already hit preview net. And so in the Hedera space, we've essentially got there's like three phases of launch. We have the preview net, and preview net is just for the very first implementation, just to kind of give a developers a look at it and allow them to mess around with it, hit it with a hammer, see what happens, try and break it, and do all these things. Then the next step there they have is the test net, and so there's the test net, and then after that it goes to mainnet. And so it looks like from the report that I saw, it looks like by July 14th, they're looking to release the first phase of staking to the mainnet. And this looks like this phase is going to allow HBAR holders to stake to one of the governing council nodes, 0.0.800. And looks like that's soon right around the corner. So we were kind of looking at possibly seeing the staking hit mainnet by the end of the year, but this was a total turnaround and really a surprise to me, a pleasant surprise. Kind of caught us a little bit off guard, to be honest with you. Of course, now we're scrambling to look at okay, what do we need to do to support staking right out of the gate as soon as we can. And so of course Wallawallet will be working furiously on that over the next couple of weeks, along with all the other stuff that's on our plate. But yeah, this is big news. So comments from the panel on the first phase of staking.
Tim, do you want to go first? Do you have anything?
No comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I know what had delayed it. We were thinking that it was going to happen in Q2, and we're getting towards the end of Q2, and the delay was not necessarily that there were any technical issues or they were having problems, but they put everything out in the normal Hedera improvement proposal process. Lehman actually put out HIP 406 for this, and they allow time for public discussion around it. How are we going to implement this? And this was the most discussed Hedera improvement proposal that they've had to this point. And as they were working through that deliberation process, that's what kind of slowed things down. So that's a good thing, right? You're getting input from the community. You're really thinking about and discussing how we can implement this staking. And that's where the delay was. And that was approved, I don't know, I think it was maybe a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, something along those lines. So I guess since that was the hang up, there really wasn't anything to stand in their way between that and actually getting it to come to fruition. As you mentioned, PreviewNet, I think, is already implemented 23rd of June. We're going to have it on testnet, and then Mainnet July 14th. But I don't think you have to be overly concerned and rush too much, because I think even after it does get implemented on Mainnet, they have to move forward with how they're going to fund 800, how much is going to get funded, where that's going to come from, all that kind of stuff to kind of bootstrap our staking platform. Of course, we don't know what the percentages are going to be or anything along those lines, but I think you do have a little bit of time. I don't think it's going to be on July 14th. Everybody's going to miss out on a bunch of money if you don't get it on Wallawallet in a short period of time.
Right. Well, thanks for the sanity check there. Appreciate it.
I think. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. Who knows? Is there any? Have you gotten any indication as to what the value locked will be? The required TVL for? We don't know. Yeah. So
nope.
So essentially, once this, so if I understand it correctly, though, once this node, this 0.0.800 node, essentially they're going to set a level, and once there is a certain amount of HBAR that is staked to that node, once there's a particular, they're going to set a particular value, and then the rewards will kick in, is what I gather.
Yep.
Awesome.
That's about it.
Yep. And so as far as the HBAR Foundation is just incredibly active. I mean, the amount of stuff the amount of teams that they're taking under their wing and supporting. I mean, I saw a 1 to 11 crypto gaming platform that's particularly interested in these play to earn models. We've got Zeus or Zoos, secondary NFT market. And I mean, nearly 10 million HBAR in assets traded already. So a lot of activity. And it was one of those things that, having been in the Hedera space for a long time, we were kind of looking at the NFT space going, well, okay, we're a little bit late to the game. A big part of the NFT craze, we were wondering, like, is this, did we kind of miss the boat? And then, I mean, just the NFT marketplace, basically the creators, the artists, the marketplaces. I mean, really, since NFT has become a thing on Hedera, I mean, the community has rallied in a big way, and so that's kind of fun to see that the HBAR community kind of. I mean, we march to the beat of a different drummer, and it's fun to see all these teams come out. And I noticed that there's an event coming out called Hashstock, so kind of a play on Woodstock, and so there's all these creators coming out, and that's an NFT celebration event. So it looks like it's being sponsored by the foundation. It's being sponsored by TRM Labs. Elizabeth over at Hello Future Buzz. There's I mean, there's going to be all kinds of fun. And it looks like the tickets for the Hashstock event are already on sale. I believe they started a day or two ago. But I wasn't really able to see from the website. It looked like the event is 60 days out. Do you know anything more about the details on that event, Brandon?
I'm sorry, Jeremy. I mean, I covered this stuff over the weekend, but I didn't actually look at the date. So we'll have to get that up for the crew as well. But I do think we have a little bit of time.
Right. Yeah. There's a little countdown timer. I was scooting around on the Hashstock website, and there was a little countdown timer. It looked like 60 days. So I think that we're 60 days out from the event, but I didn't see an actual date. It was a little confusing because basically the headline of the page said something about starting tomorrow, but I think that's
probably like buying the tickets or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I think they're just trying to get excited, trying to get people excited about it and trying to get them in to buy the tickets.
Yeah.
And then Merkle Science, a blockchain monitoring and analytics company, working again for government and private agencies. And then BlockFi, adding support for HBAR.
Well, that's probably a good opportunity because BlockFi does similar stuff to Celsius, right? So that space is strained at the moment, we'll say. I think BlockFi is being fairly careful with things, but and I think Celsius did the right thing by stopping. If anybody doesn't know, I think that they had some margin calls that maybe didn't get filled, something along those lines. They lend out crypto and give pretty impressive rewards based off of their lending and everything along those lines. But they've pretty much stopped all withdrawals for the time being, and I think that's probably the right thing to do until they can get things figured out. BlockFi works in a similar business. I think it's probably the returns you get on your HBAR outside the U.S. You can't do it inside the U.S. There's some regulatory hurdles that they haven't been able to go over quite yet. But I think those are probably a little bit safer because it's probably backstopped by the HBAR Foundation at this point. But I'm not really sure the details around that, even though I do work for the HBAR Foundation. Of course, none of this is financial advice, but we'll see what comes of that. That has roiled the markets along with the Terra Luna, the issues with Celsius and Terra Luna kind of compounding on one another, causing some major issues. I think Terra Luna, there was a total loss of about 60 billion from the top of the market. And I know Celsius holds, I think, about 11 billion. It's not lost like it was with Terra, but there's certainly some question marks around that. So we'll see what happens with BlockFi. I think there's certainly regulation coming down the line in those spaces.
Right. So if you could, we're gonna wrap it up here in fairly short order. But what was the deal with Celsius? So as we kind of move, normally in the DLT sandwich, so the our kind of choose your own topic part of the show, we would have, we were saving this for Zimbali Networks, but we can go ahead and jump in. Can you just to briefly explain what happened with Celsius? I've heard that, I've heard it in the news, I've heard it floating around, but I really haven't done any kind of deep dive into what happened with Celsius.
So I think it was essentially a run, right? A run on their platform. They have essentially, they lend out crypto for other people to speculate on in a lot of cases, or for VC or there. I mean, you could take a look at their prospectus, everything that they do. But there was essentially a run, and people were trying to get more of their stable coins out than they could secure, from their lendees there,
right.
And the margin calls kind of came to a head. And when that happens, you kind of have to shut things down until things get resolved. There is no FDIC that can step in and quietly take care of things until everything gets worked out. They have to work it out on their own.
Right.
So hopefully that gets worked out before too long. Full disclosure, I had some stable coins in Celsius, not a huge amount that I'm going to lose sleep over, but at the same point, you certainly don't want to lose anything. So we'll see what happens there.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
And have you guys gotten any wind about what's happening with Solend, the protocol on Solana for lending?
I saw some mentions about it, but I'd like to hear your point of view.
Yeah, I have no idea what's happening with them, other than I just saw a post on Reddit yesterday. There was this individual who opened a position, quite a huge one, I might say, about 108 million borrowing. That's quite a huge amount that it could bring potentially. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could tear down the network potentially. I have no idea though.
Yeah,
right, we'll have to check.
This is the kind of stuff that gets people fearful, right? And that's why we're seeing these overreactions. And I mean, it could certainly continue, and there's going to be contagion between these different platforms and these issues that are happening. And as they say, not financial advice, but you should be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. But I don't think this is the end of the potential opportunities, we'll call it.
Right. Gotcha. Yep. And again, I mean, it's one of those, as we look at all of the drama and all of the stuff that's going on in the crypto space, it's just something that I'm continually reminded of, the reason that the Hedera platform and network was so attractive to us from the very beginning. As folks that came from the enterprise technology world, both my business partner and I came from the enterprise technology world, and we saw a lot of potential for drama and instability with some of these networks. And of course, with the governing council of Hedera Hashgraph, we feel pretty confident that a lot of those dramatically bad decisions or activities are certainly less likely to occur. Not that they're impossible. We've had our share of drama within the Hedera space as well, but I feel like the ship is staying a steady course.
But not much technical, right? There's been some drama in the markets and things like that, but
right.
not much from a technical perspective, which is what I would want to see.
Right. Right. Yeah. A couple little. Yeah. I mean, of course, as a company that's deeply involved in Hedera tech, I mean, there's been little speed bumps here and there, but on the other side of that, the Hedera team and the people that are building, the folks that are building on it have been very reactive, very responsive to to all of the issues that we've opened up in GitHub, and so they've been very responsive to all that stuff. So really, no complaints there. So I'm going to hop over to our and pull our weekly winner, so we can find out who is the winner of our 10,000 Jam tokens this week. Oh my gosh, I think we have. Is this another? Wow. Okay. So the winner of the 10,000 Jam winner for this week. Somebody that we've had win in the past, but this thing, the Twitter picker picks at random. So HBAR HBAR B Army at Dave123William1. The Twitter user HBAR B Army is once again the winner of the 10. Boy, this guy's luck is incredible. I know we get a bunch of folks out on Twitter, win. A bunch of people excited about winning some Jam tokens out there. We love getting these tokens into the hands of people so they can see exactly how fast and efficient the Hedera network is. So congratulations to our winner this week. I do want to take a brief minute to again thank all the folks that are involved in making Alternative Money Mondays and the DLT sandwich happen. Of course, Andrew Antar and the folks over at Tune.fm giving us these promotional Jam tokens. We super appreciate that, and we look forward to getting Andrew Antar on here. If not next week, hopefully next week we're going to be getting some great guests in here. I want to thank Caitlin Lance over at Creative Coast for joining us, Tim Mungai, my main man in Kenya, and of course Brandon the HBAR Bull from Hedera Forum. Yes, please.
One real quick thing. Since you are talking about Tune FM, tomorrow night, Tuesday night, the 21st at 2000 Eastern time, we're going to have an AMA hosted by the HBAR Foundation, and both Hashport and Tune FM are going to be on that.
Awesome. Okay, so that's tomorrow. You said 8 p.m. Eastern.
That's right. All
right, 2000 hours. All right, great.
Where on Twitter Spaces or
Twitter Spaces? You can check it out. It's already up there. We'll try to promote it some more.
All right, and thanks to all, and of course, thanks to all the folks out there, Discord, all the folks out there on Reddit, Twitter, and before I close up, I should check and see if there are any. Caitlin, are you able to see if there were any questions that came in?
Yeah, I was looking at the chat, but my screen has frozen actually. So
okay, well, it looks like I hopped over there and I don't see any questions that came in for this week. Okay. But hopefully everybody, don't forget, folks, if you like the information and you appreciate what we're doing here, don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. We love comments down below. I mean, those are incredibly valuable. We appreciate everybody joining us, and we will see you all next week. Have a good one. All right, so the stream has ended.
Okay, good stuff.
Awesome, man.
So
see,
thanks.
That was.
Thanks for wrapping up a little early.
In clutch, man. No, you came in clutch. See,
yeah?
I really appreciate it, man. I
no
cannot
problem.
thank you enough. I mean, it's just one of those things. You are a trusted, valuable member of this community, and every time you come here, I was talking to Andrew Murdoch about the